Okay, we can start. Yes. Yeah. Good. Cosa ti serve? Ah, okay. We are all okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm Paola Zanini, head of the Education Department, Castello di Rivoli, Museo d'Arte Contemporanea. I welcome you all to the spaces of our museum. We are very happy and proud to host this final multiplier event of PERSE project promoted by the Kairos Consortium. As you probably know, PERSE stands for Perspective on Creativity and STEM educational fields. It was great to see how international institutions all involved in the field of education in different ways, with different methodologies, have worked together for the common goal of creating a brand new methodology which weaves the field of sciences, technology, and art for a new frontier of education for young people. Interdisciplinarity and internationality, the key words of the PERSE project, have always been the prerogatives of contemporary art and of the work of Education Department, Castello di Rivoli. This museum is unique because of its peculiar double identity of former royal residence where the Contemporary Art Museum lives in. The Education Department is the beating heart of Castello di Rivoli life. Through its countless projects, it makes evident and tangible the idea of the museum as an agora, a place open to the community, a center of research and experimentation according to the demands of the present time. From a temple of memory, a physical place of collection, preservation, exhibition, study, and research, the museum of the 21st century, Castello di Rivoli in particular, has become a dynamic device at the service of the public in which art is interwoven with people's lives and with the reality of the world in which we live. A space for intergenerational, international, and interdisciplinary, or rather transdisciplinary encounters in order to highlight the need for relationships, interconnection, and to overcome the different disciplines. The fragmentary nature of knowledge is rejected for an integrated and unitary world understanding. In fact, the contemporary world, given its complexity, increasingly requires not only a multidisciplinary approach, but also an interdisciplinary one in which the various subjects integrate with each other in order to stimulate the ability to look, think, and act in an innovative way, getting from their own personal potential, talents, and critical thinking. In this sense, the work of the Education Department not only underlines the importance of the educational function in the institutional mission of the museum, but also solicits modes of active learning in which the encounter with the art also passes through the learning by doing, so through practical activities which allow to get to move hands and mind, promoting the entire development of the individual. In this way, the encounter with art becomes an exciting adventure, a real journey of discovery open to intersections with other disciplines. The concept of journey is at the center of our practice of the education on art through art. For this reason, to us, it was necessary to coin a new word, a neologism, in order to indicate the professionals who deal with purpose, the artenaute. The Greek suffix nauta has the meaning of sailor expanded with the idea of traveler. The Artenaut is therefore the art traveler, that figure who crosses the world of art in the present time, both for passion and by profession, in order to share the experience of a journey of knowledge, not a guide, but rather a traveling companion who makes the visitor the protagonist of an experience in the artistic dimension, to help in the whole development of the individual. The journey not only broadens the mind, as 𝗏𝗂𝗃 states, but at the same time shapes it. The work of the Education Department has always been dedicated to guaranteeing the right of citizenship in the museum for everyone, to encouraging interaction and connection between different fields of knowledge, between people and in different contexts through active participation and social inclusion. We work for welcoming to public in all of its form, with particular attention to the younger generation and all those undergoing training. The Education Department has always embraced the indication recently issued by the European Council, which recognizes creativity as an essential contribution to provide young people with the tools for facing the new future challenges and to help them develop important skills for well-being, learning, sense of belonging, active citizenship, critical thinking, and social inclusion. In this regard, it should be noted that 2022 has been the European Year of Youth and has focused on restoring positive perspectives for young people after COVID-19 pandemic impact. The importance of ensuring that young people have access to culture and develop creative, intercultural, interdisciplinary, and communication skills has always been central in our practice. Cultural organizations, museums, educational and training institutions have to play a key role in this action of involving the new generation through formal, non-formal, and informal education. For those, therefore, like the Education Department, who have always worked for and with young people. This means making even greater efforts to include youth not only among the main recipients for action and project, but also to involve them in the process of cultural planning and programming, promotion of cultural and artistic heritage, inter and multidisciplinary learning. Castello di Rivoli is currently hosting a site-specific exhibition by Olafur Eliasson under the title Trembling Horizons, Orizzonti Tremanti. Since the late 90s, Eliasson's practice has combined the memory of the encounter with nature with the broad branches of science and ecological thought, proposing works that invite the active participation of those who meet them. Thanks to artists like Eliasson, we notice that the world of contemporary art has always been involving multiple subjects, overcoming the boundaries between science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics. His works are projected in a 30,000 square meter studio in Berlin, a place where he's surrounded by experts from different areas, architects, physicians, mathematicians, engineers, designers, cooks, an interdisciplinary team that works for the same goal. His brand new words are called by him kaleidoramas, a combination of the words kaleidoscope and panorama. They are, in a sense, both. They use the mirror effect of the kaleidoscope to conjure panoramic spaces that seem bigger than the physical place in which they are shown, a space where you can stand inside. They open up new horizons within the reflective surface, unfolding spaces in which you encounter waves, horizon lines, reflections, bands of light, and your own shadows together with those of other visitors. It means them as an opportunity to reconsider our sense of scale and time. Continuously in transformation, the kaleidorama lead you through a sequence of different physical experiences and ways of seeing the resync vision within your body. While they may first invite you to look up ahead of you and around to gain a 360-degree view, they may also suggest you turn your gaze inwards with curiosity and empathy to engage with our own inner landscape, to give us a sense of reconnection with ourselves and with other living beings we are related to. In this work, Eliasson adopts a biocentric perspective rather than according to a conventional and widespread anthropocentric approach. We say, I quote, life for humans, like all mammals, depends on inhaling and exhaling on oxygen. Following the anthropologists Natasha Myers and Timothy Choi, I'd say that life is also about conspiring, playing on the origin of the world, to breathe with, as well as the dictionary definition. We conspire with the free, with others, and with the planet, end quote. Eliasson is moreover the author of 𝗏𝗏𝗃, the collective digital work that from 2022 to 2022 used technology to invite children and young people around the world to express their ideas on how to protect the planet and to invite adults to listen to the younger generation directly from their voices. A different idea of creation, which starts again from the earth as the great generator, with the intention of offering new perspectives and the cue to rethinking the living context, creating the condition for acquiring a different attitude towards the natural environment, feeling that we all part of the same great global community of living things. Artist Michelangelo Pistoletto has long been working on the conspiracy of living beings on our planet too, by sharing his sign symbol third paradise all over the world. The third paradise aims to bring all the possible dichotomies in harmony, but it's a generative operation too. As the artist says, art is the motor at the center of the responsible social transformation, which we all have to take charge of. Everything is connected. Art is intertwined with the emergencies of the present time on which especially young people focus their attention, such as safeguarding the planet and the need to promote a new paradigm for sustainable development. From the very beginning of its activities, the Education Department has conceived the shared artistic experience in an educational, formative, interdisciplinary way, with the aim of creating a permanent laboratory of ideas and creativity, as well as an agent of free thinking and democratization. In fact, for us, education is always a political act, as Anna Pironti, the founder of the Education Department, has always been saying. I wish you all a great day by this final Multiplier event, and thank you for your attention. And I leave the stage and the word to the fellow institution. Thank you to all.
Welcome, everybody. Good morning. And I'm so happy to see you here. I thank you, Paola, for having us here in this beautiful place. It is Castello di Rivoli. I thank you, Giulia, that has been our colleague, friend, and partner in this project all the time. And I welcome our partners from all over Europe. And also, I think that there is our partners in Martinique that will see us online. So, hi, Martinique. we are not very sad that you are not here, but you are here with us. In any case, PERSE project. Yes, I didn't present myself. I didn't introduce myself. Okay, my name is Ledda Iorio, and I am from Consorzio 𝗂𝗃𝗃 Consortium, that is the leader partner of this project. On behalf of Consorzio 𝗂𝗃, I'm very happy to have you all here and to present briefly what is PERSE project and what we did. Then we are going to listen to our friends and partners for specific action that we did. And so you will have at the end of the day an entire idea of these 2 years of project, because the PERSE project started in March 2021. And as Paola already said, our project aims at developing and formalizing a creativity-oriented pedagogical approach that overcomes the dualism among non-formal, informal education for art and STEM. I must say that we co-design a new method. It's not, yes, we co-design a new method. I'm very proud to tell this. Our method combines art-based learning plus inquiry-based, science-based learning and technology-based learning, where creativity is the most important word, because the creativity is at the center and it's the transnational skill for both art and STEM disciplines. And it is a fundamental driver for innovation. But why PERSE? As we already said, the full title of our project is Perspectives of Creativity and STEM Educational Fields. But probably you know that when you write an Erasmus project, you have to choose a full title that means something, that wants to explain what you are going to do with this project. But also you have to decide to choose an acronym. And this acronym is necessary to be readable, at least. But we did more, because PERSE is not just an acronym, but is a person. PERSE is this man. I don't think that anyone in this theater know PERSE, because we didn't know we have to do a research. It's a French poet that in 1960 won the Nobel Prize for Literature. And why we choose this man? Because accepting the Nobel Prize, he made an inspiring speech, inviting everyone no longer to consider artists and scientists as hostile brothers, because they are exploring the same abyss and truth. Every creation of the mind is first all of poetic in the, I repeat, they are exploring the same abyss and truth. Every creation of the mind, sorry, I have to repeat another time. Okay. So they're exploring the same abyss, and it is only in their modes of investigation that they are different. So we decide to have PERSE as our inspirational person, because we decided to put together art and science. And what we did all together, we are seven partners from Greece, Portugal, France, Martinique. And all together we define an innovative PERSE creativity-oriented pedagogical approach, as I said. We train youth educators, and we co-design and facilitation. We define a way to practice the PERSE method. We create a set of short-term laboratories that we called pop-up laboratory. That is one that you are going to do this afternoon. I'm looking the young people right there. And we create a PERSE European Creativity Hub of Ideas as online environment, and on our that is on our website. And we made also an hackathon event that later on Margaret is going to tell us more. At the end, I would like to show you, these are the numbers of the project. As I said, we're 7 partners. We trained 42 youth workers. We involved more than 100 young people, and we reached more than 50 organizations all over Europe. We find out a sort of manifesto of our PERSE method. More than a manifesto, there are 5 tips that we would like to give our legacy to the youth workers. The first one is empathize creativity, merge different methodology, and use your imagination. Any place is perfect for a pop-up lab. We did our pop-up labs in very different places, in theater, in outdoor, in museum, everywhere. The second tip, provide flexibility. Every community is different. Create your own pop-up starting from PERSE toolboxes. This is very important because we learn from us that we can have a direction, but every place, every country, every every target is different from a place to another. So it's very important to understand the differences of each community. The third tip, encourage hands-on experimentation. Play with materials and leave space for exploration. Mistakes are creative boosters. In our pop-up labs that you can find on our website, we suggest also materials. We suggest how to do the pop-up lab, but also we suggest materials, and also we suggest maybe where you can do it, where you can try to experiment the pop-up lab. The other tip, involve other STEAM experts, facilitate teamwork and support networking, connecting the group with experts in relevant fields. This is very important because one of the when we decide to do this new method, it was very important for us to listen to experts, because we are not expert of every kind of subject. So it's very important to create networking on your place and to involve who knows the material, who knows the subject that you want to experiment with. The last tip is create a phygital environment. Use technology to expand sources of knowledge and generate engagement. This is, I think that I'm not sure that today we will see something about this, but for sure on our website, on our Facebook, you will see some of the experiments that the young people did. And this is the last one, right? Okay, so this is what we did. And I have to thank you, all the partners, for being such nice, because we work very, very well together. You are a lovely person and very nice, very professional. So I'm very happy to have this time with you. And I would like to thank you. And I think all the partners would too, Nicoletta, that is here near to me, because she was very important for this project. And today I would like to thank you also Marzia, that is doing the photographs, and Gianmarco, that is always with us in this period. Okay, so thank you very much. And now I leave the stage to the Casa de Imagine team, Portugal in.
Hello, good morning. Well, my name is Inês from Casa de Imagem. I would like to thank you all for being here, and to thank you to thank Castello di Rivoli for this wonderful welcoming, and also for 𝗀𝗰𝗶𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃 for providing us with this project and this opportunity. So I will be presenting very shortly the toolbox, and as one of the project's results, the toolbox is available. You can find it in the project's website. So I will just do this presentation and hope that you then can move and work with it as you please in your organization. So it's the toolbox is a gathering of 6 pop-up labs. They are available in the project's country languages. The biggest idea is that they are designed to support youth workers to work in innovative, creativity-driven activities. And they are based on the PERSE method that Leah presented, that gathers art, inquiry, science, and technology. For what is this developed? It's to experience innovative and creativity-oriented pedagogical activities. It's also related to understand where we live, understand our society, to be able to question this in a cross-cultural and cross-reference approach. Life isn't divided in subjects, right? So in a way, this project embraces our life experience that is multiple and is cross-reference. Also, this idea is to overcome the environments of formal, non-formal, informal ways of learning. So it's more oriented to activities and to approaches and to work together. It can be, as Leah said, in everywhere. What we have done is a gathering of everybody's perspectives. This is something that was created in a collaborative way and was experimented by the teams. So it's a complex result and it's co-designed. Okay. So when you go to the project's website, you have the 7 pop-up labs that are available, and each project has an image, an identity, has a proposal to engage with some social issue based on these method projects, right? So you can do the downloads of the toolboxes, and also you have guidelines. These guidelines are just something that we deliver for you to start engaging, like start to relate with the project, to think of your specific environment. Who do you have in front of you? How do you want to engage with things? And how can you start to work in a more particular way with the project? So it has this, all of this, it's then more developed, okay? And also explains you the structure of the laboratory, its parts, its modules, and everything. So going back to this, you have the different projects. They all have these titles, and I will just show you and go through this. So for every project, there is this summary information, so that you don't have to go through all the project to see what interests you the most. You have this sum up, and here you can understand in a brief description what is the project about. Then you have the expected impacts, the educational objectives, and then how the kind of materials. One of the things that is also interesting is that all of the projects have a starting point of using available resources, so that they are easy to reply and easy to engage with in each partner's reality and the age and the type of approach. And then in a very much detailed way, there is a step-by-step. In this step-by-step, you have an approach to the time that each part of the project, of the activity may take. As it was in the guidelines, each activity is divided into modules, okay? The first module is an introduction, then it can have different modules with activities that are proposed to approach the subject, and then in the end, there is a part to sum up. So here the step-by-step takes you through the modules and presents you with different activities or proposals, how you can engage. And then you also, here on the right, you have that part. Yes, no, on the left you have that part. I have this issue. And on the right you have the kind of approach, based learning approach that is proposed, and also you have the materials that were considered to do this activity. And then in the end of each module, you have also some extra references where you can engage and search for things related to the different subjects of the project. So it's quite detailed, but also with one of the things that is that this is open. This is an approach. So we have to think things that are not so abstract, but this is an approach. You know your reality better, so then you change this to according to your practice. That is the proposal. Okay. So this is one of the workshops, Urban Drift. Patricia and Inês, they will later explain you better this project, their practice. It's more interesting than listening to me in a more formal approach. There are some images of the experience done by Inter Alia, of this in Athens, of this project. Multiplier. It's a project about urban collections, about drift, and about how you move in the urban space. No, no, no. Já acabou. Okay. Okay. This is another of the projects, Living Reality Between Art and Nature. It is the project that was done by the Rivoli, Castello di Rivoli, and it's also a question about geocentrism and about anthropocentrism, and then how you can relate with what you know and with nature, and to think differently, to engage in a different way with your surroundings. So there are some images then of the workshop developed here. And then Inês and Patricia will show you what happened also in Portugal. We have this project of human evolution developed also by Kairos. And it's about questioning where we came from, what can we learn from the past to engage with the future. There are things that we have always done as human species, and what was different, and what is this of evolution. The sounds, it is the experiences. Esse é um vídeo também, se carregas para a frente, acho que dá. And here we have another approach that is related to well-being and how we can engage with well-being in a multiple way through your body, through your how you eat, how you enhance your body performance, how you can relax, and it's much on soft skills and engaging, and also promoting self development and empathy. We have another project, another activity called Think About Our History. It has to do with identity issues, how you represent yourself, and also how you represent your context and how you engage with your context in a society that is always changing and moving. And there are some images. And for last, but not for least, the project of Can You Feel the Buzz? It has a starting point on the bees that are disappearing with the climate change, and it questions the impact of the human footprint and our ability to take action with things that are a little strange in our everyday, like bees disappearing. And there are some images.
So me and Inês, we are here as trainees of the PERSE project. And so we had the chance to co-design this pop-up lab, the Urban Drift, with Casa da Imagem. And this is the test of this pop-up lab, the pilot test. Inês had already presented the issues involved in this lab. So we started with urban drift and this idea of mobility in cities, thinking of the specific context of Casa da Imagem. And then we developed this with a group of young students. We started with an urban drift directed with instructions, and it's the first image on top. Then we had results of each module accumulated and used in the next module. So the first module, we had video recordings of the drift by the participants. And then those video recordings were used in the second module, which was the sound model. You can see in the center of the image. So they had to create sounds viewing the images of the videos. Then the sounds were used in the third module, which is the drawing module. You can see here on the left. So the sounds were played and they created these drawings listening to that sound they made on the previous module. And the last module was a sensory map that included all of the results. So the videos from the first module, the sound for the second module, the drawing for the third module, and they included that in the multi-sensory map of the experience. So then we tested pop-up labs developed by other partners. This was developed from Italy group, one of the Italy groups, Living Reality. And as has been said before, we had to adapt to the context and to the group of people that we were applying this workshop to. So you can see that we used different materials. Some of the activities were done exactly as they were in the toolbox, and others had to be adapted to the place where it was taking place and to the group of young people that was participating in the pop-up lab. So Inês will be presenting the next.
No. Ah. Okay, so good morning, everyone. As Patricia was saying, we actually adapted two pop-up labs. Funny enough, both from Italy. The second one was called 𝗁𝗁𝗶𝗶𝗃𝗃, and it was based on human evolution. And as Inês was saying, how certain activities, historic activities from the past, like dancing, drawing, and playing, can be evoked to our times, and what can we learn from them. So this workshop was based on scientific methods as well, and concepts like mimesis and natural evolution as well, and in relation with dancing, with theater exercises, and it was also very sequential. So we started with some performative exercises, then we passed for collective mural, in which we played with lines and superposições. Layering, sorry about that, and projections. And then the outcome was actually sound related. So the final outcome was a sound composition combining all of what we had learned. So as Patricia also said, we kind of have to adapt to the different context. What is good about these pop-up labs is that, okay, we can follow them strictly, but sometimes we can't find the materials or we don't have enough time. So they are flexible enough for us to also adapt to any type of place, condition, context, and group. Then on the, this is a bit, yeah, but never mind. But then me and Patricia talked for the PERSE hackathon and decided to apply. So it was a very intensive weekend in which we had to come up like with a workshop that would have to combine all of these concepts related to STEAM methodology, and we decided to work on notions about retinal sequence and scientific observation with artistic practice, like from performative exercises to pre-cinema devices and augmented reality. I cannot reveal enough because the group that will make the workshop with us is already here. What I can say is that the workshop is really deeply based on urban artivism. And basically, what is this? Our aim is like to raise awareness about, basically about the spaces that we occupy and how these STEAM approaches relating science with technology and art can actually influence our perception, and how can we deepen our critical thinking as well. So that is all. Thank you. And now we pass the mic to Margaret from Inter Alia. Thank you.
Oh, hi. Hello. No? It's okay. Okay, so hi. Very excited to be here today. It's a bit overwhelming seeing what happened the last 2 years. It's more than I thought before I came in. First of all, Lea, Nico, thank you. Julia, Paolo, thank you for having us today. Usually big teams don't work too well together. That is not the case here. It's like 6, 7 organizations from 4 countries coming together from different disciplines and just trying out stuff. So kind of a brave experiment here that worked well. That's all I can say. So myself and the organization I represent today, Inter Alia, we were called in to consult and provide guidance with regards to non-formal learning and how we can employ these kind of methods to explore traditional subjects through a different angle. The pop-up labs that you just saw and the one that you will be testing later on today are or more or less typical examples of what we see as non-formal learning methods. So first things first, I feel like my colleagues have said enough about what we did, but maybe we need to have a common ground about what non-formal learning is and what it stands for and what it doesn't stand for. So the main idea is that we're taught from a very young age that education happens in certain settings, well-organized and very predefined settings. The way we act, the way we talk, the way we sit in a classroom, and the way we perceive being taught is very much predefined. And really, it doesn't really adjust to the setting and the context. This is what we think as proper formal education, like universities, schools, research institutions, whatever the case might be. Non-formal education now, which is very much of the interest of what we do, is any, yes, organized activity, but it happens outside the formal education system. So as Leah said beforehand, it's activities that we organize in untraditional contexts. We can have them in squares, we can have them in cafes, in museums. It doesn't have to be necessarily a school or a university or a seminar. And also, it's very important that it doesn't have a specific target group. That's why more often than not, we hear about non-formal learning when it comes to communities that are less represented. Let's say prison, let's say geographical areas that are quite limited in having access to these resources. It's very flexible, or we want to think that it can be very flexible because we adjust it every time with regards to the context that it's being applied. And we really want to think that it can be participatory and inclusive, because most of the time it targets the needs that the group that is being taught have defined for themselves. So it provides this kind of self-directed freedom in identifying the concept you want to learn about, but also the way that you access this kind of knowledge. One of the questions that arised a lot while doing this project, especially from partners and stakeholders we reached out to consult and participate in what we do, was, is this a new method? Like, how did you find out about this? Fun fact, the term only became very popularized around 1960s, 70s. But truthfully, non-formal education is what people have been doing and still are doing in places and communities where formal education doesn't look the way it looks in the Western world. So the way people were taught how to count, to talk, to write since the beginning of time is all pretty much non-formal learning. Like we all sit down in a circle and someone passes down the knowledge about something that we care for or something that we need to know in order to survive. So just to sum up why we believe in this, we think it's a very flexible method that can be adapted and adjusted every time we employ it. The good thing is that across schools in the Western world, we have this certain formal curricula, and there's nothing wrong with it, obviously, but it does raise some certain questions with regards to the student and the participant engagement, which seems to be a topic that educators struggle a lot with, or they want to address. We don't want our students to be bored, and we also want them to feel that they have some kind of ownership in what we're teaching them. So we really think that through using non-formal learning methods, we can tackle this to a certain extent and then grow from it. Now, to the important part, why do we care so much to trying out NFL methods in digital environments? Well, clearly, we live in a very rapidly digitized world. The next speaker will tell you more about this. But the thing is that all the things that we're trying to tackle in formal educational settings, it seems that can be tackled, at least to some extent, by digitized mediums or gamified solutions. So the question here is, can we have non-formal learning potential and work it through to a digitized environment? And if we do, can we have a methodology that can be actually passed out to youth workers and educators? Is it something we can try? Is it something that is legit? So this is one aspect that we need to keep in mind, that here, despite starting from a test, we still had to create something that is legit. That's something that a STEM educator would say, this makes sense. This doesn't feel like an experiment. This is something I can do to my students and be happy with the results. Like, they need to be able to take something at the end of this. So very briefly, we know that digital tools allow students to grow in certain ways that traditionally we don't see happening in most classrooms, let's say. We know that they develop this kind of critical and self-directed skills because they get to choose stuff. They get to even create their own laboratory paths. They get to identify what's relevant to them and the way they're going to access and pass down this kind of knowledge. And on the other side, which is also very important, when it comes to their life beside the classroom or whatever setting, we know that there's this kind of digital, let's say, process of learning that really helps them explore questions rather than just memorizing and then forgetting. And also there's like this stress of having to sit the standardized test and having to write down exactly what all the other students will write down is not really happening in digitized environments, because every time the end results we need to deliver is pretty much different. The funny thing, when we invited some kind of STEM educators and like gamified environment specialists in Athens, they were telling us that it's not about making it look pretty or even not boring, but it's also that it has the potential to create this kind of discipline with students because they voluntarily came to do this and they know what they want to do. They have made a choice that they want to be here and explore this, and no one is making them. And also they kind of have this this chance to experience the feeling of accomplishment and not like an obligation. So why is this all very relevant and very now? It's because we only very recently acquired the tools in academic terms to be able to evaluate the impact of non-formal learning and of digital learning. All these evaluation methods that we're trying to use, as in focus groups and qualitative methods, is fairly new in academia. So it's not a renewed interest, it's more like, and now we know what we can accomplish if use these methods correctly. So you already have an idea of what PERSE project is and what we try to do. But the things I'm going to say, just to create the right atmosphere, is we really had to sit down at a table with a physician, a mathematician, and a choreographer. And this is not a joke. We literally had to reach out to people who are traditionally conditioned in speaking one way to classrooms and auditoriums and invite them to feel vulnerable. Someone challenged their ideas. Someone invited them to see another way of teaching their own subject, their own authenticity. For us, that's the essence of non-formal learning and why we feel very happy to be in this project. So the main questions were like, can we teach biology through dance? I know, it sounds crazy. Can we paint physics? Can we explore more complex issues like sociology or institutional racism, intersectionality, through walking through the city and psychographing the mobility of the residents and the refugees and where they go and what they do? We think we can, but it's a good thing I don't have to provide any concrete results. You need to test the method on your own. I'm not going to go very much into the results, but I strongly encourage you to visit the website because the things we did, I think we can all say we're fairly happy with them. But as far as Inter Alia, the organization I represent here today, I can tell you that in the 2 roundtables we had with stakeholders, educators, some performing artists, somehow organically, we didn't even invite them to do this. We said, hey, come give us your feedback. See if the platform we created works. Let's see if we can organize better hackathons, whatever. They were so like intrigued of the procedure itself. So they came up with 3 newly pop-up ideas, just because they wanted to. So we tested 3 pilot labs. We piloted 3 pop-up labs, and then 3 new pop-up labs just emerged, just like this. And we managed to reach at least, I don't know, 12, 14 organizations very much involved in education, and get so many great ideas of how these pop-up labs can be piloted in different settings. Because you need to be able to do the pop-up lab wherever you are. If you find yourself in a position that you say, I'm here and I cannot do this, then it's not non-formal learning. I'm sure the next speaker will say more about how the digital environment works and how gamified solutions really can give this oomph to what we do. I'm going to be here all day if you want to chat about non-formal learning, and I would love to chat about this. Thank you so much for your attention and for having us. Thank you. I think Fabio Viola will come in. Thank you, Fabio.
I want to thank you, Fabio, for being with us. Fabio is a professor for many academies and universities, and he brought the gaming language to the museum heritage. So he works with two Museo, he has collective of artists at the crossing between gaming and cultural heritage. Thank you, Fabio, for being here. Take your time, but then if you need that. Okay, that's true. And now the play exhibition has just finished this weekend at Reggia di Venaria, because also Fabio is leading curator at Reggia di Venaria. So we will have him with us in Torino for a while. We are very happy.
Okay. Okay, in the meanwhile, good morning to everyone. I see some students. I hope I can help you to relieve in the next half hour. I want to talk to you about what I learned in the video games industry, because I come apparently from a completely different world compared to STEM or compared to art forms. But I want to share with you my career. I mean, I studied archaeology, so I'm an archaeologist, but I spent all my life creating video games. It sounds crazy, it sounds insane. Instead, it's pretty much important, in my opinion, trying to combine skills. This is the future. This is our future. Not to be just vertical in any kind of curricula, but trying to mix different things. So just my first invite to you is follow your passions, because when I was young, I had 2 passions: history, archaeology, and video games. And I tried to follow this, and I find a way to combine the dots of my life. So I wanna start with a personal story. I mean, I played a lot. I played a lot in I think even 2-3 hours per day, and yeah, I love video games, as you can imagine. But years ago, I was used to play in a virtual environment, a massive multiplayer online game called World of Warcraft. Probably someone of you played this game, no? And I was part of a clan. I was part of a guild, and we had head of our guild. I mean, he was a guy, but I didn't know his real name because we were used to stay there through avatars and nicknames. I mean, our guild master was an exceptional guy. I mean, he demonstrated in 4 years his talent. He studied the game, he assigned us the task, he encouraged us all the time. And 2 years after I met him inside this video game, I decided to meet in real life. He lived in Milano. I went there. He was just 15 years old. I was 25 at that time. I was impressed because he was such a leader inside that game, but I discovered a completely different story. He was a dropout, okay? He failed 3 times at the high school. He was leaving the school. But it was crazy because he was full of skills. I mean, companies might pay a lot of money for having such skills. So probably right now we have a big problem with the school. Not with the professors, not with the curricula, but in the way we transfer knowledge right now. Okay, the school is too old. Okay, the school was fit better with my father or with my mother, with that kind of generation. They can stay 5 hours sit on the chair, but now it's pretty much impossible. We have to change, especially for generations like yours, because you are used to stay on social net, or you are used to stay on Netflix, on Spotify, on video games, and they think in a completely different way. Just to introduce the topic, this is what happens inside video games right now. For example, in games like World of Warcraft or Pokemon or Assassin's Creed or Monster Hunter, this kind of action adventure or role-play massive multiplayer games, there are a lot of skills you learn every time you play. It's a non-formal environment, of course, but you are learning about collaboration. Right now, all the video games are collaborative or competitive in a multiplayer way, in an online multiplayer way. So you learn collaboration, you learn communication. For example, this guy, this 15-year-old guy, was used to handle a team of 100 person like me, and at 15 years old, his English was so good. Okay, he learned English through the video games. We have a lot of friends who learned Japanese because they were very passionate with manga or anime, no? And then you learn even problem solving because the video games are just a problem solving machine. You have to figure out how to solve that puzzle, for example, or how to challenge that monster. So you are constantly challenged in problem solving, or even you develop decision-making procedures, because in few seconds you have to decide if it's better to move on the right or on the left, if you have to use that weapon right now, or you have to store in inventory, etc., etc., etc. So basically video games, my definition of video games is a place where you have to take a lot of decision, meaningful decision every second. This is a video game, but the same happens at the school, the same happens at the work office, probably not. There is someone else that transfers to you that content or that command, and you have to follow, basically, okay? And so it's pretty much a short circuit. So you live in the video games, and you are protagonists. At the same time, you go outside your walls, enter in the school, at the workplace, or in a museum often, and you have to follow the rules. And this is a problem, okay? For example, museums are usually places where you are not allowed to play. No, you can touch anything. You can talk loudly. You can do anything. Just watching passively. And this is another great problem. This is the reason why few people after a museum visit remind something of that visit. After 1 week, everything has been deleted. Nobody reminds the labels or the artworks, etc., etc. Okay, so for example, another kind of games like strategy, puzzle, quiz, games like even League of Legends, StarCraft, Civilization, probably you played this kind of games. You learn a lot of things, a lot of skills. Critical thinking, for example, creativity, because you have to invent a new way to pass the exam, to pass the quiz, or to pass the monster. Again, you learn about problem solving, or you foster your social skills. It's another great problem among the younger generations, the social kind of skills, etc., etc. We can talk for hours just about this topic and how this kind of skills you are acquiring, how these skills match with potential job offers. There are a lot of studies about this kind of topic already. So, but why video games work well? Because video games are very emotional kind of experiences. And all the act of playing, of course. I'm focused on digital kind of play, but the physical one is the same. The principles behind are the same, just digital enables other kind of relationship. So video games are a very emotional experience. If you don't trust me, just see this kind of photographies. These are real photographies made by the English photographer Robbie Cooper. Robbie Cooper spent years of his life taking pictures of people in the act of playing this kind of video games. For example, you can see here Brody Bryant, 12 years old, playing Call of Duty, or Jessica Hardy, 13 years old, playing Tekken. There are hundreds of these kind of pictures. You can see their faces. They are completely engaged. They are completely absorbed in what they are doing. Nobody is paying them. Nobody is forcing them to play, because play is a voluntary activity. No, we have to go to the school. It's not a voluntary activity. This is one of the reasons why school is failing right now in 21st century. No, we can force people to do anything. Okay, I know it looks insane or counterintuitive, but the real reason why video games work well, it's because they are a voluntary activity. So we don't need to introduce video games as a mandatory activity in school or a museum, educational department, etc., etc. Otherwise, they are not playing anymore. If we are forcing people to play, we are losing the main quality of the gaming. Okay, and so this is a great problem in several processes. At the same time, we have this kind of people actively engaged in video games, but the same guys, the same girls, there are some stats that confirm this topic, they are not engaged when they are at school. We have around 50% of guys and girls that, of course, go to school, but they are not engaged in their curricula. It's a huge problem. We have 1 on 2 zombies at school. They are physically there, of course, but they are not learning, because if you are not engaged, if you are not experiencing emotions, you can learn. The basic principle behind the learning activity is to be engaged. Just think about your life. You remember single seconds of your life when you have been super happy or super sad. You remember that moment. Instead, when you have flat kind of experience, you don't remember anything. The same principle is in any other kind of activity. So we have just 50% of students engaged, and we have a bigger problem with professors, with teachers. These are American stats, so something can change country by country, of course, but it's an average. We have only 1 on 3 of teachers actively or just on average engage at school. So we have 2 on 3 teachers like zombies in the schools. Okay, and this is a great problem, because teachers need to be a performer on the stage. The stage is the classroom, of course. Yeah, we have some people like even, okay, for Italian, Umberto Galimberti always say these kind of things, no? So what we know when people are engaged, Engaged students are 2.5 times more likely to say that they get excellent grades and do well in school, and they are 4.5 times more likely to be hopeful about the future than their actively disengaged peers. So it's a great problem if we have students not engaged and professor not engaged, okay? And we can synthesize what I'm saying with this sentence. Benjamin Franklin, of course, centuries before video games was born, he said that, tell me and I forget, teach me and I remember, involve me and I learn. Involve or engage me, it's the same, no? So what he understood 3 centuries ago, the importance of engagement in the learning process. Because if I just tell you something tomorrow, probably 10% of what I said will stay stored in your mind. If I say you something and I show you something tomorrow, probably 15% of what I said will be stored in your mind. But if I say you something, if I show you something, and I put you as protagonist of that experience, like in the video games, tomorrow you might remind the 30%. So it's better, it's much better, 3 times better, 2 times better. And this is the lessons some museums learned 90 years ago. You know, probably children were not allowed to enter in the museums until the 30s. They were not allowed it. Now it's normal, it's common, no? And do you know which has been the first museum to allow children to enter? It's the Children's Gallery at the Science Museum of London. It was the first day of the modern science kind of museum. And right now, science museums are the only museum with an average under 30 years old. The only museum who can capture the imaginaries of younger generation. According to you, why science museum works well compared to 𝗀𝗃, Pinakothek, and archaeological museum, etc., etc.? Which is the difference between science museum and other kind of museums? Exactly. They look like games. You can touch everything. You can do an action and some reaction happens. You can interact with other peers. But right now, it looks like just science museum can do that. But every kind of museum can introduce some degree of interaction, of course. Okay? Even because right now something bigger is happening. We have around 3 billion people worldwide who play video games on a yearly basis. I mean, at least once in a year. Playing with smartphones, playing with PC, playing with console, of course, from Call of Duty to Candy Crush. I mean, of course, different kind of games. But we have almost 1/3 of worldwide population who play video games. And nobody's recognized this thing, you know? And here there is a huge untapped potential in terms of education through this language, because all your students probably have some video games installed in their phone or in their PC, laptop, etc., etc., etc. Yeah, okay, it's in Italian, but we have around 25% of free time of Generation Z is spent in video games right now. This is the world stat. Of course, country by country, something can change. Yeah, in the core of Africa, the percentage is much less. Of course, in US it's much bigger, etc., etc., etc. So you see, video games comes first compared to listening music or reading and etc., etc., etc. Okay, that's why there is a huge potential in that medium. And another thing happened in the last years. Females play just like males. When I was young, we were pretty much guys playing video games. Now it's changed. It's almost 50-50, not really 50-50, but we are moving in that direction. And we have a lot of players from 2 years old to 50-55 years old. Another big thing is happening, no? Players are not just people in the school age, 5 to 18, 5 to 20. We have from 2-3 years old using smartphone and tablet of their parents to 50-55 years old. Of course, playing on smartphone, like more casual kind of games, of course. My mother doesn't play Call of Duty or The Last of Us, but she has a lot of games on her smartphone, for example. And so let's think about what video games are. Video games are the world's leading collaborative space where art, technology, and creativity meet right now. This is my definition of video games. And they are going over the vertical curricula. Video games are an emblem of transdisciplinarity. I want to share with you a short video. Let's see if it works.
Getting started. How video games are made.
Only due to the fact that no matter how and map out a production world to experience project, your pre-production. In a professional environment, pre-production can last from 1 week to more than a year, depending on the size and complexity of the project. A good way to gauge how long your pre-production should be is, pre-production should be 10 to 20% of the total estimated time of the game development. So if you're working on an 8-month project, your pre-production should last a few weeks to over a month. The 3 biggest components in pre-production are the concept, the plan, and prototypes. Every game begins with an idea. Whether your idea or concept is born from a story you've been dying to tell, a unique form of gameplay you'd love the world to experience, or a new piece of technology that you feel will really make your game stand out, a good idea is always the start of the pre-production process. The plan is where all the information is put together and fleshed out. In many professional studios, this will be recorded in what we call a game design document. The purpose of design documentation is to fully express the vision for the game, describe the contents, ensure the team members understand their roles, and map out a production plan. That being said, game design documents are usually extremely long and detailed, and can be quite time-consuming to complete start to finish. However, there's a fair amount of debate in the industry on the actual effectiveness of a game design document. This is mainly due to the fact that no matter how well you document and plan a game, many elements will change drastically during the pre-production and production phases. This can happen for a variety of reasons. Sometimes it's due to technical limitations, game mechanics not working well together, hardware or software limitations, or even key developers or artists leaving the project. Thankfully, over the last few years, many studios and developers seem to be acknowledging this and have began adopting the much smaller, simpler, and more flexible macro design document. A design concept spearheaded by Mark Cerny, the lead architect and producer of Sony's PlayStation 4 and PlayStation Vita, as well as a game industry veteran who's designed such titles as Uncharted, God of War 3, and Killzone 3, just to name a few. A macro design document is a very short 1 or 2 page plan that contains high-level descriptions.
Okay, so I leave you my slides, so if you want to see the complete video, feel free to do that. So it was just an introduction to explain how complex can be to create a video games, how many different professionals figures are involved. Game designer is the creative part, who imagine the world, the relationship inside the game, the interactive inside the game mechanics and game dynamics, technically speaking. We have game artists, different kind of game artists. We have game animators. We have game programmers, different kind of game programmers. We have game musicians, etc., etc., etc. No? When I was used to work for Electronic Arts is a company behind FIFA, The Sims, SimCity. We were 200 people, 3 years together to create just one game. It's a pretty much complex creativity process, technological process, artistic process, yeah? Because we come from completely different backgrounds. So this is one of the challenges in the next future, even in the art. A lot of artist collective like TeamLab, the Japanese TeamLab, they are 500 artists that work under the same umbrella to realize their art installations. 500. We don't have anymore the single genius artist, the Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, because the complex is made by complexity at intersections between curricula, and just one guy or just one girl cannot handle this complexity. So we have to train people, especially in their social skills, because if you have to cooperate with hundreds of people different from you for years, yeah, you have to practice patience, and other kind of social skills, because it's not easy, you can imagine. So video games basically are science, technology, engineering, mathematics, STEM, merged with the traditional arts to give life to a new digital canvas and meta language where STEAM becomes STEM. Okay, and for example, it's pretty, it's pretty much interesting. It's a recent, super recent study made by University of Surrey, states that girls aged 13, 14 years old who played over 9 hours of video games a week were 3 times more likely to study STEAM. It's a recent study, 2 years ago. Okay, we have a problem with girls at STEAM. Yeah, you can agree or you can't agree, but this is the reality. For example, in the video game industry, we have few female programmers right now. No, we have a lot of female artists. We start to have several female game designers, but we don't have at all female programmers. Script coding, no, we don't have. We have very few. One of the reasons probably is because they played few hours in the past, because video games was a male realm until a few years ago. Okay. So starting with video games as art form, it's pretty much interesting. We can examine video games under 2 different lenses. Today, video games represent itself an important cultural and artistic expression. Okay, when I create a video games, I'm creating a painting, I'm creating a statue. It's the same. From an artistic point of view, I mean. Of course, it's an immaterial canvas, but a lot of the art of the 21st century is material. And so they are entering inside the permanent collection of museums. Video game museums are burning, and video games are an embodied evidence of new intangible heritage. Some slides will follow. And second point, video games might represent an extraordinary tool to support cultural institutions and transfer knowledge about art topics. So, in my point of view, video games are the 10th art form. We have visual arts, we have sculpture, we have architecture, we have music, we have poetry, we have performative arts, we have photography, we have cinema. Recently, we added comics, and right now, video games might be considered the 10th art form. And for example, I am leading curator at Reggia di Venaria. It's 5 kilometers far from here, the royal house of Savoia family, and we organize an entire exhibit about video games as art form. 6 months there, just ended the last weekend. Around 100,000 people entered. 80% people who never visited before the royal house. So you can imagine how this kind of activities can attract new audience, about audience development, blah, blah, blah. And for example, let me share with you this short video about the exhibit. We are inside one of the most important museums in Italy. did, I'm pretty much interested in this part. For the first time in the world, on the same wall, we had original, for example, the 𝗀𝗃𝗃𝗃 artworks, original 𝗀𝗃𝗃𝗃 artworks, the Great Wave of Hokusai, Bill Viola, Iago, Piranesi, Savinio, no, original artworks that worth millions and millions of euros. And on the same wall, the static frame of a video game. It looks strange, it looks insane, but there are a lot of parallelism. I create this montage. On the left, here, on the right side, we have the 𝗀𝗃𝗃𝗃 artworks. Probably you studied, you learn about Giorgio de Chirico, metaphysics, visions, etc., etc. At the center, there is the packaging of a video game, a very famous Japanese video games. And this, I talked with this artist, and he confirmed I was inspired by the 𝗀𝗃𝗃𝗃 in creating the art of my game. So just imagine how disruptive can be this method with students of art, finding parallelism, understanding that ancient masters are influencing the new languages, including video games. I have another example. We have a lot inside the exhibit. We had a lot inside the exhibit. For example, this is an ancient vase, 2,500 years old, coming from Greece, and the same vaso attico a figure nere, no, black figures, and this kind of warriors, and the style, the visual grammar has been reused in a video game, in a recent video games made in Australia. So you can imagine the short circuit from one place to another place, from 2,000 years ago to today. There is a huge work to do. Right now, we don't have pupillars, we don't have scholars that are studying stuff like that. So what I love to say, and we have to know our past. That's why I study archaeology, medieval archaeology. We have to recognize our roots, okay, especially here in Italy, okay? We can move out from this heritage, okay? But at the same time, we have to get these roots, and we have to put wings on top of these roots. Otherwise, countries like Italy are destined to fail in the next future. If we stop to create new things, starting by what we have, but we don't have to renounce in creating new things. Today, the challenge is to give wings to that heritage, letting it to travel through the appropriation and repackaging by the younger generation. Of course, younger generation are using Netflix or video games, so they can re-elaborate all the messages using the new languages. They can just reproduce it in the same way. It's useless, okay? And so, for example, how video games can enter in the cultural heritage. I led this group named 𝗀𝗏 Museo for 5 years ago, and we worked at the Archaeological Museum of Naples, and we created this video game called Father and Son, one of the first video games never published by an archaeological museum for a worldwide audience. I want to share with you this short trailer. What happened inside this video game? It's a narrative story. It's 2D side-scrolling video game with multiple decisions. 5 years later, we had more than 5 million downloads of this game. Okay, so more people got in contact with the museum through the video games that in the real life. This is the huge potential of digital, of course. The average age of gamers is around 30 years old. That was our aim and target. Just 7% of downloads come from Italy, but it's normal when you work with digital platform because we are 8 billion people in the world. So when we distribute something online, we have to think about the worldwide distribution. And worldwide story, it's not just about translation thing. It's about how you write the story, how you write the experience, etc., etc. But if you have questions. So basically, the principle behind Father and Son and other kind of games, it's bringing people to speak in first person. Think about that. When you play video games, you speak in first person. I saved the princess. I beat the record. I killed the monster. You don't speak in third person, as you are used to do watching a movie, for example. Spider-Man made that action, Batman made that action. You don't speak in first person, at least I hope. No, otherwise there are some illness problem, no? And so video games are the realm of the shifting from the storytelling to the story doing, because people in the video games act and interact inside the experience. They don't just listen to the story. They don't just watch the story, but they are part of the story. They influence the story through their actions and decisions. And we have video games with multiple endings, for example, even 70 different endings in games like Heavy Rain or Detroit Became Human, etc., etc. So it's very, very important, the contribute of the gamer. Game designer like me are useless without gamer, because they are part of the performance. Without gamer, the game doesn't start. So traditional artists often don't take care about their audience, because I'm creating something for me and people have to adapt to me. We use a different approach. We are nobody without our visitors. We don't exist at all. Yeah, just a memo about Father and Son. Of course, it's a digital game. You can play and complete the game on your couch in Bangladesh. You can do that. But if you physically visit the museum, the application through the geolocalization recognizes your position. If you are inside the museum, and so you paid the entrance ticket, you unlock additional contents. You can change the cloth of your character, unlocking new area, etc., etc., etc. If we have directly around 80,000 persons from the video game to the physical museum, paying 15 euro, you can calculate. We are talking about some million of extra fee incoming at the museum. So technology can be paid by itself often, okay? Just another example, from museum to theater, I had the honor to work with the National Theatre of Parma in the last years on this kind of project called A Life in Music. It's about transferring knowledge about Maestro Giuseppe Verdi and opera lyrics, etc., etc. As usual, we create new stories intertwined with the historical content. So, as you can see, the two main characters are Antonio and Silvia, the invented character.
I remember all you said. I watched the day dawning, how you never left my head. Oh, Caroline.
All the music are being written and executed by us. So video games have a lot of audio components inside.
Want to be a friend of mine.
This game has been downloaded around 600,000 times. It's for a theater, it's huge impact because usually they have around 10,000 visitors on a yearly basis. So moving towards the conclusions, okay, this project I can skip. Yeah, this theory too. Okay, and so regarding the science impact of video games, I brought to you just a couple of examples. Creating video games itself commit people to science, technology, engineering, math, because you need these skills to create a video games, to program a video games, no? Let me share with you this video.
My name is Reese. I'm 10 years old. I live in Manor, Texas. It's a small town right outside of Austin. And I like to play baseball and play Cancer Mechanic. I really like making games because you get to be really creative with it. Okay, so right now I'm logging into GameStar Mechanic. It's pretty much the only platform I make games on. You can have it be a story game, you can have it be a blasting game, you can have it
using a visual engine. There are a lot of visual engines.
Really, you can do almost
for
anything.
Elementary
Graveyard Story is pretty
students,
good.
for
It was my first
young adults, etc., etc.
So your goal in
He
this
started to create by itself video
you're
games,
the spooky monster
and he
thing
published
that can transform into a
worldwide
whip.
this kind of games.
When it has a good story,
Okay,
it comes through.
so
to
learning
the player,
skills, but even
just
learning
like when you're reading a storybook.
a job
In this one,
is making
you're
money.
stranded in this random world, and you're trying to get out. Your goal is to find out where you are.
Spend several
and get
hours
back home
after
safely.
school
You have to collect
learning,
all the
creating
points
by itself.
and
So he
survive.
needs the creative
It's great
part,
that
the
kids who
artistic
have a
part,
natural affinity
the
for wanting to make
mathematical
games
part.
get to make games.
Of course,
If,
they are easy
like giving
games.
them the tools to paint or write a book or make music, it's fantastic to allow them to express
We have to
themselves
introduce
in the
this
pure
kind
art form. What's really
of
interesting,
curricula,
though,
game
is if
design
you understand the
curricula
broader
in the
context of how
classrooms,
those
not
mechanics can
just
be
some
used in
scratch
other areas.
activity, 2-3 hour
So each part
activity,
of it
sometimes as a laboratory.
be exactly the same, because then you can just
Integral
play with
part
it.
to prepare our students for math, for engineering, for science, etc.
Then that way he's
I
difficult.
stop
to
the video. You can check by yourself later if you want. And then, of course, there are a lot of video games designed to transfer specific STEM skills. Often they are commercial kind of video games. For example, this is a game for PlayStation and Nintendo Switch. While to learn, I want to share with you first the trailer first. It's a PlayStation 4 game, okay? Even available on Nintendo Switch, on PC. It's super, super smart kind of game. While you play, you learn a lot about artificial intelligences, learning machine, and you have to script by yourself things to interact with the cat, with your cat. It's a long story, okay? A lot of logic inside this game.
PlayStation.
Okay. And last but not least, this game fits best for people who want to know more about how machine learning works. Parents and teachers are looking for a fun and easy way to make an intro to logical thinking, programming technologies for kids, programmers who want to learn new concepts, etc., etc., etc. All these goes inside the commercial, entertaining video game. last but not least, of course, you know probably Minecraft, and there are infinite ways to use Minecraft and Roblox and platforms, open gaming platform like this. I want to just share with you this that combine art and history and of course science and mathematics, a virtual reconstruction of Florence. No, it required a lot of months, a lot of study, a lot of cooperation. For example, recently we won a fund by Fondazione per il Sud. It's around 2 million euro. We are reconstructing several cities, and students from all around Italy, Italy are rethinking the city in the 2050. So the future of their city. They are on top of deciding where the hospital will be, how the school will be, how the museum will be, etc., etc., etc. They are becoming the real urban planner because they are going to be the people who will leave the city in 2050. So it's useless if an urban planner is 60 or 70 years old because he will not be with us anymore, probably. So it's a way to create the famous flipped classroom approach, etc., etc. So from me, it's all, and help you enjoy the talk, and you will spend a lot of time in your life playing, but at the same time visiting a museum and doing creative activities. Thank you so much. If they have, yeah, sure. Yeah, it's a complex question. We have an essay inside the catalog of Play exhibit, for example, just addressing this topic. It's pretty much complex. There are different visions about this because usually video games are a group work activity. So nobody of us alone can create the video game. But at the same time, usually there is a creative director behind the overall project. And so people like Hideo Kojima, for example, or Shigeru Miyamoto are credited more than. But at the same time, the ownership of a game like Minecraft, I mean, it's on top of Microsoft or it's on top of users, because users are generating maps right now. So the question is pretty much more complex, but it's the same topic connected with procedural kind of arts. No? In procedural kind of arts, there are visitors who co-create something. I didn't show a video, but for example, we create an art installation this summer for Alghero municipality, where people enter in the room, it's a tower, and they can design or color the sketches, and the virtual environment in real time acquire these paintings. So he's the owner, the people who started the process, or the people are contributing to the process. And this is, in my opinion, the shift from the idea of spectator in favor to the idea of spectator. So people are watching, but at the same time, they are creating or co-creating something. It's a huge discussion, especially in terms of ownership and connected economical benefits, because the real problem is about the economical benefit in using that. But there is not an answer. It's up even country by country. People are talking about this topic. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't know. I think we need a lot of time to talk about this topic as we are going out of focus. I mean, but probably one of the direction of what we right now we are calling metaverse. Of course, it doesn't exist, but the future of the web 3.0 should be should avoid the single platform. I create something like NFT. I'm not judging the quality of NFT or the market of NFT right now. It's another kind of topic, but NFT are trying to move out of platforms, for example. You can create your object inside the virtual world. It already happens since years in the video games. You can create your virtual asset, but right now you can export outside of that realm. Instead, NFT are trying to be cross-platforms. One of the direction for sure would be that. I mean, I create a content, probably I start that content in one platform using the editor even of that platform, but I can bring outside that content I can monetize in different ways. And so I think a larger percentage of people will be content creator in the next future inside the video games. Right now, probably it's around 5%. I don't have the real stats, but a lot of people just prefer to be what I call spectator. So we have spectator, and spectator. It's, I don't know, 90% spectator, of course, because in the video games you need to be active, and just 5%, 10% spectator, people who create really something, putting their mind, their creativity. In the next future, probably would be 50-50 or 60-40 or stuff like that. But I don't know. I mean, something is changing right now with evolution of technologies, with social evolution of younger generation, etc., etc. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, of course, if you spend all your day playing video games on a screen, it's not a good stuff. But everything exaggerated is not a good stuff. Even if you read books for 12 years a day, it's not good. You need to balance activities, interests, physical activities, and digital activities. And then the other problem with video games, and when you are 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, before you create your own mental maps, emotional maps, they can be dangerous as everything is interactive, digital interactive. And so there are some recommendations from psychologists, but often schools and parents don't know the topic. So even at 3 years old, you can be exposed to social, to YouTube, to video games, but for half hour a day, and not, for example, before going to sleep, because video games and other kind of interactive digital experiences alterate your emotions in a positive or negative way, because you can win a battle and you are super happy and you don't sleep, or you lose a battle and you are sad. It can be a problem, or some, etc., etc., etc. No, so there are some problems with video games, and let's say with everything is digital interactive. But aside this kind of aspect, there are instead a lot of studies, scientific studies, that say about the benefits of playing video games, about, for example, fostering the coordination between mind and eye, between mind and hands, in decision-making processes. Just to say you an example, a lot of companies, big companies, even in Italy, but even more outside Italy, recruit younger talents through video games. Not with the classical way, frontal dialogue with HR, but they are using video games because they test your skills, different kind of skills, inside an environment you are comfortable with. So just to say what is happening in Italy with Fiat Generali, with Costa Crociere, etc., etc. So a lot of companies are already doing this. So it's not the future, it's the present. So we have to prepare people, because this is the first screening happening this way. Of course, there is a frontal dialogue with HR, but it's just the second step. Of course, in the culture it's not happening. In the social side it's not happening, because usually we are years behind. We are running to bridge the gap, but this is what's happening. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely agree. Yeah. Yeah. Of course, I'm not apologizing playing video games all the day. No, I already said that. I mean, we need to do physical activities. We need to sketch drawings. We need to play video games. I know we need multiple factors in our life, of course.
Thanks again, Fabio Viola, for this brilliant speech. And now the PERSE multiplier event is continuing at 2 o'clock with a round table about STEAM education. And we have a lunch waiting for us at the cafe. So we thank you very much, everyone who was involved this morning, our participant to the labs in the afternoon, because they will test PERSE pop-up labs. And of course, we would like to say hello, goodbye, and thank you very much to all the people connected in streaming. So thank you again, and have a wonderful day together.